Good evening, good evening, good evening. I was very much tempted just to let that keep running. Then I was quite in the throes of the fabulous song created by Robert John Collins. So welcome back to another episode of the Deductionist podcast, ladies and gentlemen. If it looks like I'm not looking at you this evening, it's because I'm looking at the screen. The camera's over here. Adam is AWOL this evening, so you've just got myself tonight. Good evening, Miss Riffraff. Multiple stream viewing. I like it. She must have a setup, much like Johnny Lee Miller in Elementary. Multiple TV screens on the go. Several books. An ink and quill in the corner. Several other things that were going on. I don't really know where I was going with that description, but it was going all the same. So yes, I hope you're all keeping safe and well and lovely and awesome this evening, having a surprisingly eventful Thursday evening or morning, or even Friday morning probably now for some of you, I guess. We've been out for the day today so far. It has been my sister-in-law's birthday, and we've been out doing some things. That's why I've got this fancy jacket on. It is my I don't know whether it would be called a parody or a replica. It is the jacket that Colin Firth wore in Kingsman. So it's rather smart, but then I didn't really want to take it off because I feel glorious at the minute. So there we are. But yeah, on the train home, I get a text from Maddie, which was weird. In and of itself, to get a text from somebody that's maybe a few inches away from you at that particular stage, asking me if I thought that the gentleman that was stood across from me was having an affair. Now, just to kind of give you an insight into the way me and Maddie function on pretty much the same wavelength, I was about to tell her the same thing when we got off the train anyway, because I'd been watching this guy who was having way too much fun sending text messages, way too much. There was all manner of things off, from his behaviour down to the reactions in his lips, and I was following along with the movements of his thumbs so I could figure out what he was saying on the message, and needless to say, we spotted a rapscallion, a ragamuffin, a twat, I think is the nicest way of putting it, who was having some form of calendar conversation with his minstrel, with his bit of stuff on the side, and then, to add insult to injury for his wife, his kids rang him on the phone. So he's there talking to his kids and whatnot. Yeah, night, love you, and all the same. Hung up and then carried on texting the strumpet of the situation. You know, the other half, the side piece, the slot. Is I think is the nicest way of putting that. So yeah, that was an eventful train home. I'll be honest, I was more grateful for the ability to sit down than anything else. The chance to get in some observable details and practice my reverse thumb reading. Now, there's been many people over the years that have asked me about pen reading and sound reading and the like, because it's something I took great pains to be able to practice. Doing it when people are texting is very much an extrapolation of the same thing, but it's quite the challenge, because people text very, very quickly. Very quickly. Naughty, cheating, bad. Yeah, indeed. I was in two minds as to whether to call him on it or not. If his wife was there, I would have done. But it solves nothing because I can't call his wife and tell her. I can't yell down the phone to his kids, "Kids, your dad's a bastard," like this. I can't do that. Well, I could, I guess. But it's hardly fair of me to jump on the phone and start blurting that kind of stuff out towards the kids. So we didn't. We just left in typical British style, kind of shaking our heads furiously, vicious finger pointing, and the like. But yeah, it was one of those events, one of those circumstances that definitely kept me awake. Because the train was very warm and I was very tired. It's been a long day. We went axe throwing, which was fun. I won, of course. Now, for those of you who think we are going to be talking about the trial that's going on, the defamation trial with JD and AH, and I said SH then, with Johnny Depp and Sherlock Holmes, or whatever we're allowed to say these days with Jonathan Depp and the other one. I was in two minds whether to crawl back into this rabbit hole or not, because I'd kind of said my piece on it all, and it's all very much going the way that I said it would anyway, and not just me, pretty much all of the people that have said it's going to be going this way, it's going this way initially, but there are lots of things that we can examine, that we can use to learn from, to better sharpen what it is that we do from an objective standpoint. Because there are many people that get involved in this, and it'll be rightly or wrongly, depending upon what your beliefs are. Funnily enough, the trial is on my other screen. Nice. Well, we can try and provide some running commentary then. Rightly or wrongly, you may fall into the boundary of a fan in this scenario, and regardless of whatever side that you're on, if you want to think of it that way. I'm not on any side, because as a member of the ignorant public, it really makes no difference to me how it turns out. Realistically, because there is injustice done all over the place. We still have a prime minister that has been proven irrefutably to have broken the laws that he set, and he's still in power. So that's where I am. It's a remarkable sense of ambivalence to have about the whole thing. However, it's a good chance to examine your aptitude and your capability to function rationally when there are so many biases nipping at your ability to think, if it is that you fall into the realms of being a fan of one or the other person, whoever that is, right? And we all know who it is that is the other side of the train, and where she falls.
I know what a credible source is, and this is what a credible source.
Right, exactly. That lady, she'll be huffing and puffing, getting ready to blow the stream down wherever she is. God bless her. But that's the thing about the biases within the scenario, right? The more this escalates, the more the masses get involved, the more it's turning into very much a case. I'm going to qualify the statement before I say it. It's very much a case of wildly different circumstances, but on the surface, it's very much turning into a whole Brexit argument. It's been a struggle to view the trial in an unbiased fashion, as I am a Depp fan, but it's a good exercise, and rightly so. It is. It's a great exercise, and that's. the aspect that we can take away from this whole endeavor. It's a source of a free training in our ability to maintain the correct mindset that is maintain the correct brainwave state that is applicable to the situation, so that we might read it correctly, right? And what I mean with the Brexit analogy is, if you are one of those people that voted to remain, for example, right? And after the people that voted to leave won, if you spoke about all the reasons why Brexit was no good for us in that area, then you were met with nothing more than, oh, you're just a Ramona, you are this, you're embittered about the whole thing, stop spitting your dummy out and get on board, as opposed to addressing all of the points that you made. Right? And this is the thing that's happening on either side. However, there is a fallacy that comes out of this whole thing. If you look at all of the things that has been confirmed, as much as they can be confirmed from where we sit as a member of the ignorant public, right? If you look at all of the things that have been confirmed about what she did, and how she acted, and how she was physical and emotionally manipulative, and all of the rest of it, right? These are the things that have been confirmed. Add on to that her lies and the like. Then you get all of the fans on her side saying, oh well, it's just the Depp media machine, you know. It's them spinning all of this into positivity for him, and all of this, that, and the other, right? When if you should really be looking at each of the examples in terms of the evidence that has led it to have that confirmed status, as opposed to just trying to sidestep the points that have been proven. Okay, and then if you look at the same thing from the other side, if you try and say all of the things that have been confirmed about him, which aren't that many, right? It amounts to nothing more than, fairly graphic texts, yeah, of course. But everything else at this stage, and I would like people to correct me if I am wrong, because I have been out of this whole shtick for quite some time, since a couple of months after I did my last video on the topic. I kind of put it to bed. But the whole aspect in terms of what's been confirmed from his side is that he has addiction problems, right? And that he sent fairly graphic and nasty texts about her, not to her, which would be very different things. Okay, and then you would say that that's the herd fans trying to spin this into things and it's not, and whatever, right? Instead of focusing on the things that are relevant to the particulars of the scenario. The same thing again with Brexit. If you try and sit down and ask, a gaggle of Tories, what have we gotten out of this government that is positive, right? That is beneficial. What have we got? You'll get the, oh yeah, well, you're just the leftist this, well, you're a Mona this, you're a Jonathan Pye fan this, you're a, stop moaning, get on board. It's much better than what Corbyn would have done. And all right, there's a ton of opinions, but still answer the question, right? Answer the question. And inevitably they can't, or indeed struggle to. At least the ones that I've spoken to as well are the same thing, and the same aspect should be held here, right? Instead of turning into some kind of Hollywood hyperbole moment where everybody is trying to utilize all of the conjecture of a situation to try and move it towards your own end. I mean, that's the job of the lawyers, of course it is. But if you look at things like well, if you were quite reductionistic about it as well, and I should say, right, with these podcasts, more so with the Reacts videos and things like this, I have an idea of the points I want to make because I know the kind of video I'm about to watch before I watch it. With the podcasts, they are unscripted. They're unscripted. So if I am trying to find my way into a point that I'm making, just forgive me, is what I mean. If you look at the whole concept of profiling, not just abuse signs, but the indications of things like victimization and emotional blackmail and manipulation, and isolation and depression and addiction and all of these related qualities that are there, right? There are many different diagnostics that you can use to be able to get you towards the laundry list of information that you can use to base your prognosis on, to base your analysis on of the signs that you're seeing. Right now, if you look at many of the affected disorders that are there, right, you can boil them down to a few different signs, and it does fall into the categories of whether you have been the victim of abuse or whether you are the abuser. Now, when you're dealing with these kinds of things rearing their heads in adults, what you're looking at is 9 times out of 10, and I don't say that categorically because there is the option for somebody to just be that way or have developed into that way as a victim of circumstance, of part of their surroundings and the things that have happened to them, and the like. Now, you want to look at things that go right the way back to early childhood, because this is where our impressionistic values imprint onto us in terms of how we are going to live our lives when these things pop up, and what we are going to do in the face of them. And it's a great way to understand from an abductive reasoning standpoint what you read in a person, to understand what they were like as a child, or what experience they had as a child, young adult, teenager, that kind of thing, when these notions take root and become the buds from which behaviors grow. Now, when you look at the commonality of these, because there have been an abundance of studies done into this area over the years, and I would imagine they will keep going on into the future as well. But the study I'm referring to here comes from the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and it is one of those studies that combined the aspect of other results areas for them to try and talk about the people that for them to try and talk to the people that come to them for help, that come to them for safety and shelter, this kind of thing, and look at the commonalities that were most highly featured in either side. Okay, that were featured in either side. And the simple fact is that anyone can be an abuser. Okay, they would come from anywhere, any kind of cultural background, any kind of religious background, any kind of economic background. You know, it could be people that you've met on the street for days. It could be the new guy in the office. It could be anyone, right? But what's particularly interesting for me about the aspect of this one is that it found that up to 90% of abusers don't have a criminal record. Right? They don't have a criminal record. And that's not to say that they are, really good abusers, which may sound oxymoronic, but I hope you know what I mean, in that they've been able to get away with it for so long. But they are generally law-abiding citizens outside of the home. Yeah, and this as an idea should be taken into account from both sides, because again, to the best of my knowledge, neither one of these guys, be it let's call them the woman or the man, in this scenario, have criminal records, or indeed um, proven track records of violence outside of the home. Now, there have been run-ins and the like over time, but I find this particularly interesting because when you look at the basics of profiling and police research, the background checks and the like is almost a staple to try and give credence towards the behavioural profiling of people within this area. Now, when you look at the traits that abusers have in common, oh, bear with me. Could it be equated to remaining calm and logical while someone is screaming insults in your face? A threat to a deeply held belief can often feel as threatening as physical violence. Absolutely, absolutely. It's an attack towards your core. Right, that's an abuse. That's an abusive notion in there. It's an attack towards your core, something that you hold particularly dear to you. And when somebody is aware of that, to lash out in such a directly accurate way is a form of abuse in that area, right? So the traits that abusers have in common, if you look at it this way, an abuser often denies the existence or minimizes the seriousness of the violence and its effects on the victim and other family members. I refer you to her recanting the tale of the bottle throwing incident. Right, there was carefully chosen distance in language with the incendiary notion of the situation. An abuser objectifies the victim and often sees them as property or sexual objects. Now, when I did my follow-up to these, I went through close to 19 hours of footage. I figured I was going to do my legwork on the topic if I was going to have any kind of a well-rounded opinion on exactly what's happening and what's going on in this area. And each time it is very clear who feels like the member walking down the red carpet, displaying the item that's there to highlight themselves, right? Displaying him as the item that's there to highlight her. Now, if I refer you to another celebrity couple that are virtually enraptured with one another and watch the way they walk down carpets, it's very much in equal standing, right? That would be Hugh Jackman and his wife, right? There's absolute adoration between the two of them, which is very much the complete opposite towards these guys. An abuser has low self-esteem and feels powerless and ineffective in the world. He or she may appear successful, but internally they feel inadequate, right? Which we would see in all of the verbal abuse and the notions to tear down somebody who is clearly of an elevated status over yourself, right? Whether you've put them there or not is irrelevant. It's the perception en masse over the world. He was very much a higher status individual when compared to her, so for her to be able to bring him down towards that level would be about that reclamation, well, that attempted reclamation of power. An abuser externalizes the cause of their behavior. They blame their violence on circumstances such as stress, their partner's behavior, a bad day on alcohol, drugs, or other factors and the like. Which again we heard as part of the deposition in terms of the reactions towards heated arguments that got towards the point where she became explosive and she became outwardly aggressive, shall we say, whereas the other one tried to leave, tried to go and hide themselves away in different rooms. An abuser may be pleasant and charming between periods of violence and is often seen as a nice person to others outside the relationship. Now, the facts remain that that last one could apply to either of them. It could. It absolutely could. Now, so the warning signs of an abuser would be things like extreme jealousy, possessiveness, unpredictability, a bad temper, cruelty to animals. I refer you to the incident in Australia with the tiny doggos. Verbal abuse. Many recorded moments of that. Because the verbal abuse in this side is directly towards each other, not who said whatever behind each other's backs. It's towards the person, directly towards themselves. Controlling behaviour, which could be down to emotional manipulation and blackmail as a result of this kind of verbal abuse and insults and the like. Antiquated beliefs about roles of women and men in relationships. Well, we could make the argument it would be based on nothing more than our understanding of the rationale of the situation, but we could make the argument that that was the reason for the eponymous article in the Washington Post. Forced sex or disregard of their partner's unwillingness to have sex. Who knows? It's my limited understanding of sex life. Sabotage of birth control methods or refusal to honour agreed upon methods. Well, I've been there. Blaming the victim for anything bad that happens. Yeah, it's the classic, why are you making me do this remark, right? Which again, she has remarked several times on the matter herself, unprompted. Sabotage or obstruction of the victim's ability to work or attend school. I think it's all quite clear how that's been sabotaged on behalf of him. You know, his career's virtually in tatters at this stage. Controls all the finances? No idea. Abuse of other family members, children or pets? No idea. Accusations of the victim flirting with others or having an affair? The flirting was accused several times. Control of what the victim wears and how they act? No idea. Demeaning the victim either privately or publicly? It happened many times. Embarrassment or humiliation of the victim in front of others? It happened many times. Harassment of the victim at work? Couldn't tell you. Now that's interesting, right? When you look at yeah, there you go. Gaslighting is most definitively another one. Now it's interesting when you look at that and you try and step back from that kind of examination of the stuff that matters. Don't get into the he said, she said of it. Look at what can be confirmed and look at what you can match it to. Because you can match much more to her than you can to him. Does that irrefutably prove one way or the other? No. But what it does do is it gives stronger credence to the profile that you're developing on a behavioural level that would give an inclination towards the understanding of whether somebody is motivated to be deceptive or whether somebody is motivated to go the extra mile to try and hide certain things that they may or may not have done. Right? This is gold when you're working within the legalities of a courtroom, because especially over that side of the pond, when you're dealing with things like probable cause, for an example, if you've got a jury involved, if you're a particularly impassioned speaker, you only have to convince people at times, which is the kind of Marmite of the scenario. It's both good and bad. It's like it's like a Schrodinger's evidence in that way. Yeah, until it's heard, it can be perceived as both good and bad. In that, you would only have to convince people of information, but if you are a particularly impassioned speaker, then they would buy into you as a topic and buy into you as an orator, and therefore what you have to say is given a kind of level of believability as a result. You know, I refer you back to Bill Bailey's concept, and it's the concept from a comedian, but I refer to him mostly because it's a topic where the words make sense. I've not seen it given a higher educational basis than this. He refers to it as relaxed empiricism, in that he isn't smart enough to understand what Stephen Hawking is talking about in the book A Brief History of Time, but he knows that Stephen Hawking is smart and what he's gone through, and a physician, and all of these other things in terms of what Stephen Hawking is capable of doing and has done, and therefore he's willing to accept that what he is talking about, again, rightly or wrongly, he's willing to accept what Stephen Hawking is talking about in the book as having a basis in reality. And that's the same thing as buying into somebody that you like, that you believe is talking common sense at a particular time. So if either side has a particularly enlightened and engaging performer as their counsellor, then that is a much better situation to be in than somebody who is not looking them in the eye and engaging and talking eloquently about the topics and the understanding of points and the things that they need to focus on, right? Because it's as much about the delivery of the information as it is about the information itself. And to some degree, I'm not a fan of that, because it adds an unwelcome behavioural spanner in the works when it comes to the proving of things that has happened. You know, the same way I don't understand economics, but I would trust 70 of the world's leading economists making a statement on something. Goddamn right. Same here. I'm guessing that's another satirical remark about the current state of the UK. Yeah. And I said the G word there. Well, I'll never be forgiven. I made an inductive leap as to the direction of the comment. But this is my point: when you're dealing with things of this nature, you should always be looking at the facts in relation to the behaviors that add up towards the circumstance, and not how much you believe in the person as an entity, as a brand, right? There are many people talking about the kind of clothes that Johnny and Amber are wearing. Oh, it's great. I've said their names now. If they want to come after me, they can. I doubt it, but if they want to, they can. Doesn't matter. It sounds very Liam Neeson. She's confirmed it. It was a satirical remark about the current state of the UK. Absolutely. But that's the thing, when when people start talking about their clothes, for an example, that's a notion that bugs me, because let's not forget the fact that these guys are celebrities, so they will have faced an army of people trying to buy them clothes to appear in court in, because it's a misguided view of trying to publicize your brand. Okay. Second, the last time they chose their own clothes may have been when they were both children. Right? May have been when they were both children. I would love to see him even trying to come after you. Me too, to be fair. Me too. I think it'd be hilarious. Imagine a little Benny Hill chase. Right. Sorry, that made myself laugh. It was much funnier in my head than when I described it out loud. Anyway, the point that I'm making is the efficacy or indeed the interest that somebody has in being in a particular place cannot be judged by their clothing. Imagine if I hadn't have qualified the reason I am wearing such a fancy jacket today. Right? Imagine if I hadn't qualified that reason and just spent the whole stream as though I'm wearing my normal clothes when I'm wearing a crushed velvet jacket. And then there may be one or two of you thinking, always dress really fancy. Is it a special occasion? Is it a special stream? Is there something going on? Whatever. And all of this extraneous detail that has a basis in nothing other than the fact that I'm wearing a fancy jacket. It is the same argument that I place on modern business, in that if you go into most kind of entry-level call center positions, you are encouraged to wear comfortable clothing, whatever you want to wear, within reason. Obviously, you can't rock up in a mankini and flip-flops, though that would be hilarious if you could. But you're encouraged to wear comfortable clothing. And then when you step up to the ladder to whatever the next stage in that is, whatever kind of super awesome supervisory role that is that you're having, you are then told that you have to wear a shirt and tie, or whatever the female equivalent is of that. And you are told that you have to wear this as part of your position. Now, my question to those that have always been trying to enforce that rule, and there have been many, many people in many different businesses over the years, is simply why? Why? Because if you've given them the job, their ability to wear a shirt and tie has no relation on their ability to do the role whatsoever. The same circumstance is happening here. The clothing that they are choosing to wear bears no relation to their ability to function within that environment, other than them try to pay their respects to the authority of the fact that they are in court, and try and exude the particulars of their own individual style. That is it. That is it. Right? So Johnny Depp, no matter what he's wearing, will always look cool. Will always look cool. When you think of the other side of her, she has no particular image in that area that Johnny has, right? She's always tried to look nice in the same way that anybody in the celebrity zone would do, but she has nothing that really kind of stands out as marks her as oh, that's something that she would wear. Whereas, if you think of things that, the hats that Johnny's worn, the glasses that he's worn, the leather bands that he's worn, the bandanas that have been tied out the back of his trousers, these kinds of things are all unique to the style, so that it will be reflected. Johnny will always look like Johnny, right? She's always going to wear something throughout this whole incidents that reflects her. People talking about looking all business and all professional, whereas you're talking bollocks. To be fair, you're talking absolute bollocks, unless, and this is a very big unless, they chose their clothes themselves, which I find highly unlikely, given the engine that they are currently walking through at the minute, right? It's absolutely mind-blowing to me. Somebody that kind of lives in a world of logical explanation of detail and these kinds of things. So yeah, that's all I want to talk about today in terms of the logical breakdown of this kind of detail. Tomorrow, right? Because I'm gonna do a few things on this now. I've got my own standpoint. So this might come out as additional podcasts. It might come out as React videos. I don't know at this stage. We're gonna go over some of the footage and some of the behavioural details of some of the depositions that have been given, particularly from Johnny's sister, and the like, because I've read a lot about it. I haven't watched any yet, other than the brief kinds of 2-minute clips that you get. I want to see it full right the way through. I've been ducking in and out of the footage, but I want to see it in full. And the other guy, I forget his name, the best friend in the scenario. There's been some good details about that I'm going to have a look at. But one of the last things that I want to make mention of is a couple of scenarios that become particularly pertinent from a psychological angle, in that there have been a number of studies done into celebrities being abused via Twitter and the impact of tweet valence, volumes of abuse, and dark triad personality factors on victim blaming and perceptions of severity. Now, this comes from a psychological journal of computers in human behaviour and the like. Now, some of the highlights from this particular article, and I encourage you to track it down because it's a very pertinent read here. When you look at the notion of celebrities being involved in criminal enterprises and court, and that Twitter gets involved and whatnot, I'm always reminded of Dave Chappelle's comment on that. People were saying, Dave, people are slagging you on Twitter. So I don't give a fuck. Twitter's not a real place, right? If only so many people had that opinion, but they don't. This is why psychological research is being performed into the effects on not only the personalities of the celebrities that these things are directed towards, but the wider understanding in terms of the perception of the severity of the act from an outward view, because of the amount of tweets that are getting involved. Now, some of the highlights from this: celebrities received more victim blame following negative initial tweets. A high volume of abuse following negative tweets were perceived as least severe. Observer psychopathy decreased, perceived severity following positive tweets. Narcissism increased perceived blame and decreased severity after negative tweets. Right. So this thing has a huge effect on these kinds of scenarios, and it shouldn't, because Twitter has no place in this kind of a lawsuit that has, in effect, nothing to do with any of us. Right? It has nothing to do with any of us. And there was another interesting study done. Where are we? So it's published in June 1996. The antecedents of abusive personality and abusive behaviour in wife assaulters. So this is from the guy's angle that doesn't really very often get explored. People talk about the nature of gender biases till they are blue in the face. The second domestic violence pops up when guys are the victims. Where's all the volume of gender bias shouters there? They can't be heard, and it's enlightening to understand the retreat into Isaac Baruch. Thank you, Isaac Baruch, or Baruch. I don't know, but Isaac. There we go. Yes, I am going to go over. Isaac's stuff as well, but following on from these studies, which again I wholeheartedly encourage you to track down, because they're great reads, illuminating stuff, and it really helps you to separate the wheat from the chaff in terms of the important relative material that could have an effect here, from a behavioural level, from a people reading level, from a logical breakdown of the details in that area, and then the particulars of the way that more men retreat into silence and getting on with things than women who retreat into depression, and both equally sad, of course they are. But one has more of an invisible illness factor than the other, purely because of the way that the male gender is perceived during somebody who has suffered as the result of domestic abuse. Okay. Yeah, as I say, that's all I'm going to say on the logical breakdown of the information that's there. And it all relates back to, and it's kind of fortuitous that the guy we actually found was cheating on his wife at the time, because we could have been lost in the incendiary notion that this guy was cheating. He got, from what sounded, it sounded to be lovely kids. For all I know about his kids, they could be absolute bastards, but they sounded lovely and pleasant on the phone, which from that small brief part of information we could have got all on our high horse about it and been rah, and got involved in the way that most people tend to do now in the 21st century, assuming some kind of indignance on the behalf of other people, which is annoying in and of itself. But that would have stopped us from seeing all of these other points that allowed us to prove in that particular circumstance that he was the one who was being unfaithful. Because walking away from it, I left with a name of the mistress, how long they'd been together, where they're meeting on Monday, the kind of texts that he was sending to his wife, how long that they've been married, his cleaning schedule, where he'd been, all of this kind of thing, just from not getting involved in that kind of topic. Right, and that's exactly what I said right back at the start. If I had gone to this kind of notion in the same way that people go to being fans of either one of these people, if I'd have gone to that with the same kind of notion as my particular feelings about straying and cheating and these kinds of things, then I wouldn't have been able to leave with all of that information. Arguably, I would have left with none of it. So this is the important thing that we need to take away from these kinds of circumstances. We are in no position to hold a huge degree of information. We can't be, because we're not involved with the trial. All we are left with is the scraps from the plate as they are tossed down. And when you are thrown those, you have to take them how they're being shown to you. And if anybody tells you otherwise, then they're not doing you a disservice. Then they're doing you a disservice. They're not being fair to your understanding of what it takes to read somebody in this scenario, because you have to take care of your own biases first of all. And I can feel another rant coming on the topic. But there we go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed what was could only be described as part one. And I'm kind of regretting dipping my toe back into this water, because it is a huge bowl to sit in. So yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you all. I hope you have a real entertaining Thursday evening if you're in the UK, or entertaining, insert name of time here, wherever it is, wherever you are, and make smart decisions for those around you. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye.